and thank you for coming to my channel once again. I'm glad to have you here today. So today we're going to be looking at something quite important. I'm going to be looking at um, the different types of spinal muscular atrophy that we have. Like if you watched my last video, I explained what spinal muscular atrophy is. It's a genetic disease that affects the muscles. It's a neuromuscular disease. It affects the muscles of the patient, and there's a general belief that if something is not used, it's the human, it's the what I call it, the scientific thing. If something is not properly used, it starts wasting. So because these patients have muscles that they are not using, like because they are not working, they are not using their leg muscles, and then before you know it, the muscle starts to waste away, starts getting smaller, starts thinning out. So any part of their muscles that are not in constant use starts wasting away. That's what happens with spinal muscular atrophy. So today we're going to be looking at the different types of spinal muscular atrophy. There are four types. The fourth one is very rare, but there are four types of spinal muscular atrophy that is known. We have SMA type 1, we have type 2, we have type 3, and then we have type 4. Type 1 usually happen. There's type 0, but most type 0 do not survive after birth. Some of them even die in the womb or die just after delivery. So type 0 is quite rare, but type 1, the statistics has it that about 60% of people who have SMA are type 1 SMA, have type 1 SMA because it's an early onset. It starts within 0 to 6 months of the person's life. The symptoms start between 0 and 6 months of the patient's life. What it means is that, of course, they are missing the SMN1 gene, or they have it mutated, but they have less number of SMN2 genes. They have 2 copies of the SMN2 genes, 2 copies, yes, of the SMN2 genes, and then they start showing symptoms quite early. You find out that for people with SMA type 1, they have very great difficulty with breathing, that some of them have to be tracked. They have to open up their trachea and pass a tube to the trachea to let them breathe, so that they breathe straight, the air goes straight to the lungs and all of that, because the muscles of the trachea are not strong enough to expand and collapse on its own. Then most of them have feeding issues too, that they have to open them, or they have to pass food through tubes. For most of them, some of them, there are different tubes that they can use. There's the NG tube, there's the NJ tube, there's the PEG tube, and all. There are tubes that they pass through the nose. Most especially if the child is on treatment and they know that there's a possibility of this improving over time, they might decide to pass through the nose, to pass the tube through the nose, because it's a temporary thing that they can easily remove as the child improves. So they pass the tube through the nose and then feed the child through that tube that goes from the nose either into the stomach or into the small intestine. So that's the tube that they use. Then for others who are not on treatment, or are not receiving any treatment, or are a bit older, more complicated, they create access. They use the tube to access their stomach straight. So there's a tube, they pass through their stomach and they feed them directly into their stomach. But if the child has reflux issues, like when they finish eating, the food still comes out, they might decide to pass it straight into the intestine. And so those are the kind of tube feeding that they have. And then most type 1s never get to sit independently, never get to crawl, never get to roll on their own if they are not on any treatments. That's why you hear that the life expectancy of type 1 SMA type 1 is 2 years old, because they are prone to a lot of respiratory issues, respiratory diseases. It's easy for them to pick up respiratory diseases, and those respiratory diseases can be very fatal to them. Something as little as common cold, cough can be fatal to an SMA type 1 patient. Then type 2 is they call them the intermediary kind of type of SMA, because some of them get to the point of sitting on their own, some of them get to the point of crawling on their hands and their knees, some of them don't get to the point of standing, but never getting to the point of type 3 is you start seeing the symptoms from 18 months. So most children at 18 months have already started sitting, have already started walking, have already started moving around, doing some things. And so at 18 months, maybe you start noticing that the child is no longer responding to the things that they were doing before. You notice that the child maybe starts tripping as they walk and fall, and then you're wondering what's going on. It's the muscles failing or becoming. And the type 4, which I said is very rare, they call it the adult onset spinal muscular atrophy. It starts in their teen age. Maybe you see someone who did everything very well, very fine, and then gets to 18 years or 15 years, 16 years, and then starts having these issues, and now might have need of using wheelchair. Difference in these whole types are the presence of the SMN2 neurons. For type 2, they have more than 2 copies of the SMN2. Some of them have between 2 and 8. So the idea is that the more SMN2 proteins that the cells have, the more SMN2 proteins they have, the stronger they are. So if you see someone who has 3 copies, the person who has 3 copies will be weaker than someone who has 4 copies, will be weaker than someone that has 5 copies, and that's how it progresses. So those are the types of SMA that we have. And remember, the reason we're sharing this is so that if you see any signs, any symptoms that look like this, you can suggest for these kind of things to be checked out. You can ask your doctor, you can ask the physician who is taking care of the parent of the child or somebody, and say, have you checked this out? Have you checked this out? Have you looked out for this? Have you checked that this child does not have so and so issue? And recently I found out that children with SMA type 1, it's risky to place them on oxygen. We didn't know about that. I mean, all the while that my daughter was sick, she was on oxygen, and we didn't even know that it's a quite risky thing. And those are the kind of knowledge that the reason we say we share the things we share is just to pass this knowledge across, because you need to know these things. We need to know these things and then be able to carefully handle and manage these things. Thank you. I hope you've gotten something from this, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comment section. And then if you want to reach out to me personally for any information whatsoever, my contact will also be in the descriptions. And thank you very much. Don't forget to share, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to like this video. Thank you very much. Bye.